Welcome to the edge. Not the edge of comfort, not the edge of compromise, but the edge of truth. You're standing on the border between average and awakened, between who you were and who you're about to become. This is not a safe space. This is a sharpening ground. This is where delusions are shattered and reality is spoken into existence with thunder. If you thought this was going to be a friendly conversation, you're already 10 steps behind. Because what just happened wasn't a dialogue. It wasn't a disagreement. It wasn't a debate. This was a burial. You just witnessed a soul get folded without a single punch thrown. You watched someone walk into the fire with ego in hand and leave with ashes in their mouth. This wasn't about proving a point. This was about ending a chapter, about closing the book on arrogance, denial, weakness. You just watched what happens when confidence walks into the room and silence follows. And now that you're here, you've got two choices. Step back and forget what you just felt, or step forward and never be the same again. Now pause, breathe. If this hit you, if it made your blood stir, if it woke something up in your chest you forgot was there, if it made you remember who you are or what you've been running from, then you already know what to do. Subscribe, like, comment, not just because it helps, but because this right here is not just content. This is your fuel. This is your mirror. This is your invitation to rise. Don't scroll past this and think you'll find this fire somewhere else. You won't. Not like this. Because what you're feeling right now, that pressure in your chest, that ringing in your ears, is the sound of comfort dying and your hunger waking up. Lock in. Join the ones who never settle. You're not just a viewer. You're a weapon being reforged. And this is where it begins. Now listen close. Because what buried them wasn't just words, it was clarity, precision, unshakable presence. You know what most people fear? Not death, not failure. They fear being seen. They fear the mirror. And in that moment, when their arguments crumbled, when their voice cracked, when their eyes searched the floor for answers that never came, they were seen. Not judged, not ridiculed, just seen for who they really were beneath all the noise. And it broke them. That's what real pressure does. It doesn't yell, it reveals. And you're not afraid of pressure. You've just been lied to about what it really is. They told you pressure was the enemy, that silence was punishment, that standing alone was failure. But what if I told you that's where the champions are made? That the silence you fear is actually where your voice is forged? That standing alone is not punishment, it's promotion. Let me say it again. This wasn't a debate, it was a burial. A burial of excuses, of ego, of everything that stands between potential and power. You just saw what happens when someone shows up unprepared to a war they started. They wanted a moment. You gave them a legacy. They wanted a reaction. You gave them a revelation. Because when truth walks in, lies fall silent. And when presence shows up, performance fades. But what about you? Don't just clap from the sidelines. Ask yourself, when the spotlight hits, will you be ready? Will you speak from memory or mastery? Will you show up rehearsed or reborn? Because in the end, you're either the one burying weakness or the one being buried by it. People will ask, was it really necessary to go that hard? The answer, yes. Every single word. Because the world doesn't need more polished answers. It needs unshakable truth. And truth doesn't whisper, it doesn't cater, it conquers. So ask yourself right now, what are you still dragging behind you that should have been buried years ago? What habits? What fears? What identities? You've been carrying corpses in your soul, calling it personality. But today is your turning point. Today is when you put the shovel in your own hand. Not to bury others, but to bury who you used to be. To dig deep into the core of your being and resurrect the part of you that refuses to kneel. The most dangerous version of you is not the loudest. It's the clearest. It's the one who no longer needs to prove anything, because their existence is the proof. So if you felt that fire in this video, then don't waste it. Use it. Don't just share it. Let it sharpen you. Play it again. Let the words haunt your distractions. Let them disrupt your comfort. You weren't made to be palatable. You were made to pierce through everything fake. And if someone has a problem with that, let them step into the arena. Just know, it won't be a debate. It'll be a burial. You see, the truth about life, the real battle that rages inside every soul, is not fought with fists or loud voices. It's fought in silence. Inside your mind, behind your eyes, in the place where your fears and dreams wrestle for control. This wasn't a debate. It was a burial because you didn't just crush an opponent. You ended a way of thinking, a shadow of doubt, the very foundation of weakness that once stood tall. You have the power to do this, not just to others, but to yourself. To bury the version of you that hides behind excuses, that whispers, "Not yet, maybe later, I'm not ready." That voice, bury it. Leave it 6 feet under. Let it rot in the past where it belongs. Because the future doesn't belong to those who hesitate or falter. It belongs to those who strike without mercy, who own their truth with unapologetic ferocity. You don't negotiate with your destiny, you dominate it. And that means letting go of every chain holding you back. That means taking every piece of criticism, every doubter, every no you ever heard, and transforming it into fuel for the fire raging inside you. There's a cruel beauty in destruction because it paves the way for creation. What you just witnessed was not merely the downfall of someone else. It was a blueprint for your own ascension. When you bury the noise of the world, the distractions, the lies you told yourself, you create space for clarity. And in clarity, there is power beyond measure. Don't mistake silence for weakness. When they went quiet, it was because the weight of truth crashed through their armor and shattered the illusions they held so dear. And you know what? That's exactly where you want to be. When the world gets quiet, listen closely, because that silence is the sound of your enemies crumbling and your spirit rising. Now, if you think this is just about defeating someone else, you're missing the point. This is about defeating the darkness inside you. It's about refusing to let your potential be buried beneath the rubble of fear and complacency. It's about rising with the force of 1,000 storms and saying, "I will not be stopped. I will not be silenced. I will not be buried alive by my own doubts." Every time you push past the limit, every time you stare into the abyss and refuse to blink, you are rewriting the story of your life. You are telling yourself and the universe that you will not settle for scraps, for half-truths, for crumbs of attention. You are declaring war on mediocrity, and mediocrity, it doesn't get a vote in your kingdom. So here's the truth no one wants to say loud enough. Sometimes the battle isn't about winning or losing. Sometimes it's about ending the game altogether. When you bury the old narratives, the weak habits, the toxic thoughts, you create a clean slate, a fresh grave for the past so the future can grow unshackled and fierce. But burying is not easy. It demands everything. It demands courage when you feel like running. It demands sacrifice when you want comfort. It demands resilience when every part of you screams to give up. And that's exactly why so few can do it. Because the moment you commit to this burial, you commit to war with yourself, the part of you that doubts, that fears, that hides. And when that war is won, you stand taller than you ever imagined. Remember, this wasn't just a verbal sparring match. This was the moment when weakness was laid to rest and power was born from the ashes. You have witnessed it, you have felt it. And now the question is, what will you bury today? What part of your story is ready to die so that a new, stronger version can be born? Let this moment be your catalyst. Let it fuel a fire that burns so bright it melts the chains of yesterday. You are not here to play small or settle for less. You are here to dominate every single part of your existence, starting with the battlefield inside your mind. This is your declaration. No more debates with your demons. No more bargaining with your fears. This is your burial, your release, your rise. Step into that power and watch how the world bends to the force of your will. You've seen how quickly the facade can fall when faced with unrelenting truth, how easily the strongest walls crumble when they are struck with relentless clarity. This wasn't about winning points or gathering applause. This was about obliterating every lie that kept someone stuck, every illusion that convinced them they could stand when they were already broken. This was a burial, yes, but it was also a revelation, a ruthless uncovering of what's real and what's not. And that's the difference between those who survive and those who thrive. Survivors cling to comfort, to familiar pain, to safe failures. Thrivers embrace discomfort, wield pain as a weapon, and hunt for new failures because those failures are the stepping stones to greatness. The burial you just witnessed is a symbol of that transformation. When you stop being polite with yourself and start being honest, brutally honest. When you stop sugarcoating your excuses and face your truth with unblinking eyes, you really just ended their whole career. And you can end every limiting story in your life the same way. That's the power that's been sitting dormant inside you. Not a power born from violence or hatred, but from unshakable conviction, the kind of conviction that doesn't apologize, the kind of conviction that doesn't back down, the kind of conviction that quietly buries the old and lays the foundation for the new. Think about it. Every great leap forward in history, every breakthrough, every moment of triumph began with a burial. The burial of old beliefs, old systems, old ways of thinking. If you want to be great, if you want to rise beyond the noise and mediocrity, you have to be willing to bury your past self. The part of you that clings to comfort at the cost of growth. The part of you that whispers, "I'm not enough," or "I can't." Burial is brutal because it demands that you let go completely. There is no halfway, no holding on. It's an all-in move. You can't bury the past and still expect it to run your present. You can't bury weakness and still allow fear to call the shots. You have to choose, and in that choice lies your power. This wasn't a debate because there was no room for negotiation, no space for second guessing. When you commit to this level of honesty, when you step into this kind of relentless self-mastery, you don't argue with your doubts, you bury them. You don't entertain your fears, you bury them. You don't negotiate with the limits others place on you, you bury those limits. Because to win in this world, to win in life, you must master the art of ruthless self-honesty. Ask yourself right now, what story are you telling yourself that needs to die? What habit, what fear, what self-imposed boundary is begging to be buried beneath the weight of your new vision. You owe it to yourself to listen, to dig deep, to find that thing you've been afraid to face and put it to rest once and for all. Because you cannot build a throne out of rubble. You cannot rule your world with ghost dragging at your heels. And make no mistake, this will hurt. Burial always does. It means walking away from the known and stepping into the unknown. It means facing loneliness when everyone else chooses comfort. It means sacrifice, sometimes a lifetime of sacrifice, because the rebirth that follows is not for the faint of heart. It is for the warrior who's willing to stare down death itself and say, I choose life. You're not here by accident. You're here because somewhere inside, you felt the call to rise, the call to transform, the call to bury the old and claim the new. This moment, right now, is your starting line. Not a place of hesitation or fear, but a place of power. You're not just watching this happen, you're becoming it. This was a burial, a complete annihilation of weakness, and now it's your turn. Your turn to stop debating with your limits and bury them, to stop arguing with your past and lay it to rest, to stop negotiating with your potential and claim it fiercely. Because greatness isn't polite. It's not gentle. It's not patient. Greatness buries everything that stands in its way and then keeps walking. So when you walk away from this moment, remember this, you really just ended their whole career. But more importantly, you can end your own cycle of doubt and weakness. You can be the one who buries their old self and rises like a titan from the grave of their past. You can stop being a spectator in your own life and start being the executor of your destiny. No more debates. No more second chances to settle. This was a burial. And that means the future belongs to those who have the courage to dig deep, to get dirty, to destroy what no longer serves them so they can rise, clean, fierce, and unbreakable. You can feel it now, can't you? That pulse beneath your skin, that storm in your chest. It's not adrenaline, it's recognition. You've seen what happens when words aren't just said, they're felt, weaponized, unleashed. What you witnessed wasn't a verbal defeat. It was a public execution of arrogance, a cold, surgical dismantling of false confidence. This wasn't an argument. This was the end. And not just for them, for every part of you that still clings to the idea that you need permission to rise. Let's get something clear. When the fire is real, the room gets colder. When presence enters, noise dies. You didn't win because you shouted louder. You didn't win because you knew more facts. You won because you embodied truth so completely that the lies around you suffocated. You won because you didn't flinch. You stood still while everything else collapsed. That's the energy of burial. That's what it feels like when your mindset becomes a weapon and your will becomes your armor. The most terrifying opponent isn't the loud one. It's the one who knows. The one who has faced death in every form. Death of pride, of illusion, of ego, and has come back sharper, colder, and clearer. That's what you're becoming. You're not here to debate anymore. You're here to destroy what no longer serves your eyes. You're here to bury every version of yourself that played small to make others comfortable. Every version of yourself that apologized for being intense, for being focused, for being hungry. You've been told to dim your light to fit in. You've been told to take it easy, to rest, to slow down. But let me ask you, did your soul come here to coast? Did your spirit survive everything it's been through just to blend in with the noise? Or were you forged for something more? Something that can only be reached by climbing through the dirt, burying your comfort, and owning your power without flinching. This is your awakening. The world doesn't need more passive people waiting for green lights. It needs monsters of purpose. People so focused that their footsteps shake the weak-willed into silence. It needs people who bury their excuses in silence and show up every day like it's war. Because it is. It always has been. You are at war with your former self. And every day you wake up, you get to choose. Repeat or resurrect. Shrink or strike. Talk or transform. Let the weak hold debates. Let the soft argue about who's right. You bury the noise with action, with silence, with a gaze so focused that it makes cowards turn their heads. That's not arrogance. That's awareness. That's knowing who you are in a world desperate to distract you from it. And when you know who you are, you don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to convince anyone. Your existence becomes the argument. Your presence becomes the proof. So don't just listen to this. Don't just feel it. Live it. Go out and bury the voice in your head that says, I can't. Go bury the comfort that's keeping you average. Go bury the dream that sounds nice but demands nothing from you. If your dream doesn't scare you, if it doesn't ask for sacrifice, then it's not a dream. It's a distraction. This isn't about being motivated for a moment. This is about changing everything. This is about walking into every room from now on and being the calm in the chaos. Not because you trained to fake confidence, but because you buried everything that made you question yourself. This is about leaving your old self behind in a mental graveyard of used excuses and broken patterns, and walking out clean, ruthless, ready. They won't understand it. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're cold now, focused, distant. Let them. You didn't come this far to explain yourself to people who are still debating their worth. You came to bury the ordinary. You came to end the cycle. You came to become a force, so unmoved by the world's noise that your silence becomes legend. And when they ask, what happened to you? Don't say a word. Just look them in the eye, because deep down, they already know. They felt the shift. They saw the burial. They witnessed the old you vanish into the dirt, and the real you rise without a sound. And that silence? That's the sound of a career ending, a lie dying, a soul waking up. You really just ended their whole career, and now it's time to end your old life too. This is your permission. This is your funeral for everything that held you back. From this moment on, no more waiting, no more apologizing, no more hesitating. You walk with death behind you and destiny in your hands, and you never look back. Because this wasn't a debate, this was a burial, and you were the one holding the shovel.